Welcome to Emprendiendo Online with Horacio Edgar. So this is like the first English speaking interview that I'm gonna do for my program. I highly appreciate that all the people who are watching or listening to me that are native Spanish speaking people to have a little patience with me. I am gonna do my best effort to give you the best English I can. And I'm doing it in English because I have a very special guest today. He's from the United States. It's someone who I have been following for a lot of years. I have taken some of his courses, and I think that he has a very unique style. This person that I'm gonna interview today is the only person that I know. Maybe there are more, but it's the only person that I know that continually is making experiments. Most of the people like me, for example, we work on having Facebook ads with customers, but he does it. I don't know if maybe for other companies, but he's continually working through the algorithms or working through all of the different type of things that Facebook offers you or offers to all the people who's gonna announce. And he makes the experiments and he shares with the audience, with us, what the results of those experiments are. And I have seen some of them that have been very, very interesting, as when he was following, for example, the pixel. Like, okay, so if I do an ad here, to which person are the ads going to be showing? And he takes account of the results. So I don't know a lot of people who have done that. We have heard of the persons who have conversions and give you their results from the sales they make. But here, our guest for today is John Loomer. John, welcome to Emprendiendo Online. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks so much, Horacio. And I also really appreciate that you're doing this in English. And I feel a little bad because I know a little bit of Spanish, not enough to be able to answer in return. My in-laws actually originally from Mexico. So Viva Mexico, and let's get this right.
No, that's great. That's great. Maybe some people who doesn't speak Spanish are gonna listen to this interview. I'm sorry for my English, but
No,
I'm
you're
gonna do
doing
my
great.
best. So,
You're doing awesome. Yeah.
John, how did you start with Facebook? Why we're gonna mix it up a little bit in this interview. So why don't we start with why Facebook ads? You have been doing this for more than 10 years or something like that. So why did you got stuck with Facebook ads?
That's a good question. So, man, my career before I started my business was different, to say the least. So I was in insurance. So I like a lot of people, I did something I did not enjoy. I had no passion whatsoever in the insurance world, but that's what I was doing to pay the bills, right? And so that's what I did first.
I'm sorry for the interruption. I tend to interrupt a lot because it's something to me. I like insurance. It's not as I haven't done it a lot. I did it like for 6 months, or no, I'm less than 6 months, but I consider it a very good industry for a lot of people who have that type of abilities, and they like sales, no? But what I have the question for you is, why were you in insurance, or what was your, I don't know, did you study something? And because we have like how do you say, like the misconceived idea for a lot of people that people who do insurance are people who got out of a job, right? I didn't find anything, so I had to go into insurance. Here in Mexico, that happens a lot. So I don't find a job, and they continually have that. So what was your story? How did you end up in insurance?
And first of all, nothing against the industry. That's just, so my wife and I got married in 1999. So I was 24 years old. I just aged myself. And we moved to Colorado, got married, and that I needed a job. And my first job, I was looking around in Denver because we had just moved there. And we had a friend that we went to college with who was working at an insurance company, and she got me an interview, and I worked there. And so I worked in insurance for 5 years. Now,
Were you a
during that,
salesman?
I was an underwriter.
Okay.
I started in claims. I think most people start in claims, and then I ended up a commercial underwriter. So any business who needed directors and officers and that type of insurance, that's the kind of thing I underwrote.
Okay.
So during that time, I was also really into fantasy sports. I know this sounds like it's not related, but I was really into fantasy sports. I started writing for other sites. I ended up starting my own website. And as a result of all of that, and I ended up getting a job with the National Basketball Association. It was,
Wow.
yeah. So to go from something you do not enjoy and really are probably not very good at, because I didn't have the passion for it, to working for the NBA, well, it was amazing.
So
But that
this is like to put it a time frame. This is around 2003 when you went from insurance to you started to writing like some on a blog or something like that.
So I started writing about fantasy sports almost immediately after I got the insurance job.
Okay.
So because basically I needed another outlet, right?
Web 1.0.
Yeah, really. And but looking back, that while it seemed like a complete waste of time that I was doing all that, that's why I got the job at the NBA. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And I'll explain why. But so got the job with the NBA, which was amazing. But they required me to move my family. So at the time we had two boys. It was just two boys at the time. We were young. One, and our oldest was, oh boy, he was 4 years old at the time. So this is 2005. He was 4 years old. He's also a cancer survivor. So it was just a year before that he had been diagnosed with cancer. And then we had another younger son at the time who was 4 and 1. 4 and 1. So very young family, but just an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And so we moved across country to New Jersey, and I took this job. So I oversaw fantasy games for the National Basketball Association for 3 seasons. So this is all relevant because while I was there, we partnered with Facebook. So this was 2007. Facebook had just opened up to people beyond high school and college.
Okay.
So there are 50 million people on the platform. We partnered with Facebook so that we could, so they could build an app for us. So this is before you could build your own app. So it was a playoff basketball. So they had, if anyone who was on Facebook in college, back before, like in 2004-ish, they used to have this March Madness app for college basketball. So they repurposed that for the National Basketball Association when we partnered with them. Okay. And as a result, I got on Facebook for the first time. I was the first admin of the official NBA Facebook group, and that was before there were pages. Okay. That's how long ago that is.
Yeah, so it was their personal profile. It was before pages.
It was before there were pages, but I fell in love with the platform because as a kid, I was someone who moved around a lot. Our family moved around a lot. So I lost track of a lot of people as I was growing up. And then all of a sudden I started reconnecting with these people that I hadn't heard from in 20 or 30 years. And it was that kind of thing that I just fell in love with the platform. But also it's just, I learned to use it from a business point of view. So not only at the NBA did we use it, but after I left the NBA 3 years after those 3 seasons, I used it. I worked for the American Cancer Society. I was VP of strategic marketing for the Great West region. And so Facebook and social media was still pretty young back then, but that was really important as a part of that. So eventually I would get laid off by the American Cancer Society. So that was after the MBA.
And why
That
did
was,
you, I'm sorry, so
yeah,
do you have like a dream job there in the
I know,
NBA?
yeah.
So the American Cancer
So,
was
so,
did like a better, no, they
um,
call you, or does the job with the NBA finish?
yeah, I skipped over some stuff just because for time. But so this is what happened. So when we moved to New Jersey, that was a tough move to make, right? Our family, or especially my wife's family, was all in Colorado. And especially because our son, it was still just a year from being diagnosed with cancer. And so we're going to need new doctors and everything.
Okay.
So it took a lot just to do it. Um, and we knew this is going to be maybe a few seasons and that's it. Like this is going to be like, okay, get it out of your system, have this great experience, and then we're going to have to come back.
Okay.
Right. So did it for 3 seasons. I begged so this is before people worked from home often at all. Right. So I begged my bosses, please let me do this remotely. Didn't happen. So left the NBA, actually worked for a startup fantasy games company for 6 months, which was like the hardest thing I've ever done. It was so much stress. Got laid off in 6 months. And then worked for the American Cancer Society and did that for a couple of years. But that was, again, that ended up being 2011, like end of 2011, like economy tanked.
Yeah.
Nonprofit world was probably a bad place to be at that point. I ended up getting laid off. So second time in less than 3 years. And so basically what I did, I had no idea what I want to do. What I did know was I had some really good jobs the last few years. I was kind of spoiled. So I wanted to do something I liked. But second, we couldn't move again. I was not going to move my family. So basically what I did is it was about 11 days, I think it was, after I got laid off. I started johnloomer.com. So this is August 29th, I believe, of 2011. I didn't know I was starting a business. All I knew was I am going to use this website to express what I do, what my skills are, and how it can help people so that maybe I can get a job. I've never been trained in starting my own business. So I really never even thought that was even possible. So basically, I started a blog essentially, and I just started writing. And most of my blog posts had something to do with social media in the early going. So started writing about Facebook. I'd write about Twitter. I'd read about Pinterest when that came out, Google Plus, if you remember that.
Yeah.
A little bit about that, but eventually it started to be about business use of social media. Just because I started realizing, okay, maybe I need to build my brand. If I have a brand, I don't know. And all of a sudden, once I found the Facebook marketing niche, like that's what I was focused on, I started to get a lot of traffic. And every once in a while, something would really hit. And I wrote 300 blog posts, actually 350 blog posts in that first year. Because I know
that's a lot, almost one daily.
Yeah, I had all the time in the world too, right? That's like, so it made sense. Like that was my entire focus, was trying to get a job or at least make myself useful. During that time, I did a little bit of like consulting during that year, but as I started getting traffic, I started to try to monetize the site. Like at first, that was just like, okay, throwing some ads on the site, things like that. And eventually, about a year later, and so I started to focus more on Facebook ads because I started to use Facebook ads to drive traffic and to build my brand. And because that's a platform I was so comfortable with because I started using it in 2007, that just kind of became my thing. And then the first product I launched was the end of 2012, where it was a Facebook page review. Like you paid me, I think, $97, and I would review your page and give you this report, and that was it. So it's something that really wouldn't scale or anything, but it's like I didn't know what I was doing. So that was my first product, and so that's really when I officially became a business. Um,
Like,
and
for
it was
example, in that first time that you sold
yeah,
that, like,
yeah.
how many sales did you have? Do you remember?
I
Give or
don't.
take, like a ballpark.
Maybe 50.
50. Wow, that's
Maybe.
great for the first time, right?
Well, and also understand, yeah. Well, so I grew pretty fast in terms of like driving traffic and getting people aware of my brand. Like I had connected with like Mari Smith was the person at that point. Like Mari Smith was huge, and I had connected with her, and she would like she was even throwing around the idea of like selling that to her people, but we never did that. Um, and it was so I was definitely networking and getting known pretty quickly. I mean, there was like a 6 month period or so where I had no idea. I would write something and no one would read it, and that wasn't fun. But then it started growing. I think once I started focusing on the Facebook stuff. But yeah, that whole I had started building an email list, and I really didn't know like how to sell a product or anything. So basically, all I didn't create anything. I just sent out an email to my list, and there might have been, I'm just guessing, there might have been 1,000 or so people on my list at a time, and basically just put a PayPal button in there, and like, hey, if you want to buy this, buy it. And then if no one bought it, no one bought it. I didn't have to create anything, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have a landing page, didn't do anything like that, and people started buying it. And so that was the first one. Then I think the biggest thing was once I created training. So I created Power Editor. Remember Power Editor?
Yeah.
So that was before Ads Manager, and that's what the advanced advertiser used instead of the boost button to run advertising. And it was really buggy and hard to use and intimidating, which I think helped because everybody had questions about it and needed help with it. So I created a training on that, and that's really when my business just exploded at that point.
Okay. So in that, how what year was that approximately? Like 2012?
It's 2012, 2013 in there, yeah.
So in that time, your business explodes. You start to have a full-time income from this
Yeah.
new business that you're creating. You're having fun doing something that you love. And what is your mentality in that time? Because I know I have been doing online courses and info products, well, in digital products for some time. So you have a lot of ups and downs, and what did you thought about that? This is gonna be my career forever, or what did you thought?
I mean, it was it's a combination of so many feelings and emotions. It was scary, it was exciting, it was like I felt so lucky. Um and like I didn't deserve it. Um because it's like this is what I've always wanted. Like I can control my own time and what everybody wants, and spend more time with my family, and watch my kids grow up. And um so it was a difficult time in a lot of ways because I was dealing with new problems, like the new problems of a business that's working. And when I didn't know how to run a business, I've never run a business before. So it was, scaling, it was hiring, it was all of those things. And what software do we use to do this and do that? And we got lots of people who want to partner and dealing with all those things. It was a really exciting time, though. I mean, to go to become known as well. Like I saw, I think the first time where I've really just realized like I've really done something is I went to social media marketing world to speak, and I was always petrified of public speaking. I just terrified, and so for months I was scared of this moment. And I get there, and I just remember like 5 or 10 minutes before it starts, and just seeing that the room is just packed, just packed. It was standing room only. And it was so emotional for me to just realize that like that's the moment where I realized I did something. I created something and to impact people's lives. It was pretty great.
So in that moment when you're like in that conference, like how many students or paid students did you had impact for around that time?
Oh, how many
Because
pay
some
like yeah, I mean that so that first training, I think I ultimately sold over 1,000 of those trainings.
1,000, okay. And those
Yeah.
were like still like $100, or have you taken the price up?
Yeah, I think that I'm truly trying to remember because there were two versions of it. The first version I think was like a 147, and the second one was like a package of three that I did like a year later. But yeah, it's but there what I noticed though, like you're saying with like the ups and downs, is like I always needed a new training to sell to keep that revenue coming, right?
Yeah.
So eventually what I did, and this has been about 9 years now, is I started a community, paid community, so that there would be monthly recurring revenue, so it'd be easier to depend on that and not always have a new training coming out every few months.
Okay, so you had more stability in. And what about your time? Like, how much time were you investing on on your company? Like, were you working full time? Were you trying to grow it more, or did you say, okay, so I'm making a lot of money? If you want to share something about the part of the money that you were getting or not, that's okay. But you had a pretty decent income,
Yeah,
and maybe you have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of time. What your focus there? Like, okay, I'm gonna give the time to my family, I'm gonna take
yeah.
advantage of this moment that I have, or like, okay, so I'm making a lot of money, I want more. What's your steps in that time?
Right. You know, I absolutely think I probably took a different approach to that than most people would. Like I wasn't focused on, oh, I got to keep growing and growing and growing. I got to scale this and it's got to be I got to now I've got to, travel the world and do public speaking. I got to start an agency and, all this. My goal really after I saw, okay, I can do this is like, okay, now I want to find a way to work less, and spend more time with my family. Maintain this, grow if we can, but maintain it the best that we can. Because this was a pretty pivotal time in the growth of my kids, right? So at that point, then my youngest son was born. So the so 11 years ago, they were 3, 7, and 10. So I wanted to spend more time with them. I wanted to coach their baseball teams. I wanted to do all that kind of stuff. I didn't want to be stuck behind my computer or traveling across, states or out of the country while I'm missing their lives. So really, once I realized I built something, my focus was about not scaling it, but streamlining it for myself, and hiring people and delegating and doing less, for me personally. So that was the focus.
Okay, so fast forward to 2022. Okay,
Mm,
we had like, for I don't know, in the, I think it happened the same thing in the US, but in the Spanish speaking market, the pandemic was like the best thing that could happen
hmm,
for digital selling persons or
right,
info products, right?
right,
In the US, you had a very different or more advanced or developed industry than in the Spanish speaking one. How did the pandemic get to you? Did it had a big boom? Did you sold more like in the whole industry and in your own business?
I think it impacted everybody differently, right? It just, for me, it had a very negative effect. And so when I look back on it, so I was coaching my son, my youngest son's baseball team at the time, and I had just gotten back from talking at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. And we knew that this pandemic thing was happening, but we weren't really sure how serious it was or anything. We were about to go on a trip to Arizona for my son's baseball team, so they could play. And I remember debating, like, should we do this trip or not? And I don't even remember why, but I sent an email to my list, just kind of asking people how they were doing, because I had general idea that things weren't great for other people in different countries at that point, and also just kind of explain what's going on in my life and whatnot. And I just remember just getting flooded with emails from people with these horror stories about what was going on. So especially from Italy, I think in particular, I was getting a lot of this. And, it was that time. And then once, it finally hit us in the US, it was, instead of seeing it as an opportunity, which maybe I should have, I really struggled to sell anything, like to like put together the words, buy my stuff. I know you're struggling right now, right?
Yeah.
You're losing. You've probably lost your job. Your business, if you run a business, is hurting right now. Buy my thing so I can show you how to do it. And that just to me that just felt wrong.
Okay.
And so first of all, like, all plans I had for that year pushed aside. But the one product I created was more of like instead of Facebook ads, like, okay, we're not going to do this right now, but here is how you can start running an online business. Some basic things you can do. Just like trying to help, trying to make some money out of it, but as a huge, I was normally selling training for $147 to $247. This was for like $40 something, and I was just like, let's just let's do this. But it's really from that point forward that my business really just started struggling, because I personally lost that passion during that time, where it felt like this stuff just doesn't matter. Like, so many other things are just so much more important. And whether it's a depression or whatever I was going through, I don't know, but business was really hard. And so even when all that started lifting, I kind of suffered from that period of time. And also that also accelerated some of the downturn I was already starting to see before COVID, because of some of the decisions that I made in terms of like I said, I wasn't trying to grow. I was trying to streamline things. I wasn't making changes and changing with everything that was going on with technology and whatnot. Like, I still wasn't really doing video. I was trying to resist that as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that all just kind of accelerated, and to the point where it's like it really hit, I guess early this year, and helped me realize that, look, I got to make some changes fast, because I'm in a different place. And it's like a unique situation. Like, if you've had a business for this long, especially in an industry that's constantly changing, you have to constantly change just to survive. And I think it's like that, maybe an arrogance of thinking, oh, I built this thing, so it's always going to be there. Just keep the lights on. It's going to keep churning out the money. That just doesn't happen. You have to keep evolving. So
especially in Facebook, I also have some trainings on how to do Facebook ads, but on a basic level.
Yeah.
And I decided to don't do those anymore because Facebook changes so much that I said, okay, so this is not going to work so well in the long run, because all I have to do is more or less like you were doing, like be very focused, and my basic training, I have to do it again so that the windows or the images that are showing are the ones that people are seeing. And so it started to change a lot. So I think that could have happened to you too, that it was a lot of work. It's not only maintaining it. You have to see what's happening, and with all the changes in social media and with the 3.0 and what happened with Apple and the APIs and everything that's been going on, it also made, and from there comes my next question. It's, I think that Facebook went through a curve when it was hard at first, like you were saying, with the first editor for ads. Then with the boost, the blue button boost, it become very easy. Not very good, but very easy at least. And then with the Facebook business suite, it was kind of easy to do it. At least from a campaign, having your ad being shown to the world. Maybe it wasn't that efficient, you could do it better, etc. But for someone to do it, it wasn't that hard.
Right.
And then right now with all the API and the pixel, it's becoming a lot of work, and it's becoming very difficult, and with the spike in the costs of the ads and everything. So right now, my question would be, does an entry-level person who's gonna go into doing his own ads, is it still possible? Well, I know it's possible, but what I mean is it the right way to go, or is it better to have an expert? Is it still, like, my question is it still a job that a non-expert can do? That's the question.
So anybody can get started, like you were saying. The problem is understanding the things that can result in wasted money or getting you in trouble, right? So advertisers get their ad accounts shut down. They get pages shut down, businesses shut down on Facebook for breaking rules, violating rules. You have to know what those rules are. It's really important you do. And some of those things are not obvious, right? But the other thing with Facebook ads, like I said, it's like understanding how not to waste money. Because if you trust the algorithm at all times and you're like, oh, I want to drive traffic to my website, or I want to build my brand, get new followers, get more engagement on my videos. If you're not careful about the way those work, you're going to see results that look really, really good. And you're going to keep spending a ton of money and not realize that those were very low quality. And the reason that is just because of the way the algorithm works. And you really need to be someone who knows what you're doing to avoid those pitfalls. So yes, an entry-level person more than ever before can get involved. But like you were saying, the pixel, getting set up with the API, prioritizing your 8 events, creating custom conversions, like all these things. There are parts of it though that are super advanced that an entry-level person either won't even know to do or could do them wrong. So I would say that still you absolutely need some experience if you want to trust them.
I don't know if you share this view with me. I have talked with a lot of people who do Facebook ads, and to have agencies even who work with our customers. And a lot of them, I think I have seen your posts and your videos, so I know that you experience the difference between what Facebook tells you and what you're really having, because it's pretty easy to know when you have a landing page and you have people register for your course or your newsletter or whatever, to know if it matches, right? So if you have like a little bit of variation, it doesn't affect you very much. But I have seen times when the variation is either goes up or goes down, both ways. So, and I can't explain it. I know maybe I'm no John Loomer, but I know that there are a lot of persons who have experienced the same thing. And okay, so it that really shooks your business, right?
Well, and this is, yeah, all related to the iOS 14 stuff that happened as well over the last, year and a half, where it, when people opted out of reporting, but also Facebook changed their attribution settings in terms of reporting conversions. Um, it changed, even if the actual success of your advertising never changed, the way you perceive it to perform changed, right? So Facebook could no longer tell you you had these 20%, like these 50 conversions happened. They used to tell you, but now they don't. So now you think the campaign's not doing well. So that was a big problem. It still is to a point. Um, so that like you're saying, it's one of those things that you have to understand how to connect the dots the best you can, to be able to look on your back end and see that came in, so I can connect it to that, or using URL parameters or some other way of tracking. Or sometimes you just have to put your hands up and say, I don't know, like, and kind of trust the algorithm or trust what Facebook says, because there's no way to prove it one way or the other. And it's definitely become more complicated in that way.
So what would you say right now? If I don't know if you only do, well, I know you're starting to do TikTok ads,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
TikTok, well, I think it's gonna be huge. I think that a lot of people are gonna go that way. So kudos for you to going that way. I think it's a great idea. I too are starting to experiment with that platform. It has just opened in Mexico, for example, and I think it's going already worldwide. But what would you say right now, in your opinion, is the best platform? Or is there no platform that could be the one to use?
Yeah, no, I don't feel like there's that one platform right now. I think for a period of time, absolutely, Facebook was the one. Just because it was cheap, and if you knew what you were doing, you could get some really pretty insane results. It's very difficult to get, um, like, you're not going to get surprising results anymore, right? You could get results that just it would be hard to explain, 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I think it depends on your business in terms of the platform that's the best fit too. Because if you're in the service industry, and I use this example a lot, and you're a plumber, you're running your ads, you don't know who needs a plumber right now, right? So your business is needed when people need you, but they don't know when they're going to need you. So really, the only strategies you have as a Facebook advertiser would be for awareness, so people think of you when they need you, or remarketing, because they ran a search cut because they need you. They ran a search, went to your website, and now you're going to remarket them on Facebook. But really, the most logical platform to use at that point would be a Google, because you want to get the people who are searching for something you can solve for them, a problem that you can solve for them. And that's something that Facebook's never been able to do. And it's an area where Google will always be superior, at least being, now the costs are another question, but in terms of being able to satisfy that, only Google can do it. So, but it depends, because if you're an e-com business, Facebook, it's still tough to beat that right now. Like if you have hundreds of products, and you have a catalog of products that you can run dynamic product ads with, Facebook does a really good job of optimizing. If you're in a certain category of business, I encourage anybody, start looking at, click on ads for shoes. See what happens after you click ads for shoes. You won't get just ads from that brand that was selling those shoes. You will get ads for other brand shoes, but they're also similar shoes, right? It's really it's sophisticated. It's like, so I remember, and I bring up that example because I was doing this myself, and I just realizing like how smart that is. Like, I was looking for a casual shoe that's like, it's not an athletic shoe, but something that casual, maybe a little bit nicer, not dress up though. And so I clicked on an ad, and next thing I know, I'm getting a ton of ads for like, oh yeah, I like those shoes too. I like those shoes too. But these are all different brands and different advertisers. That's just how smart the system is, that it helps you too as an advertiser, like in a brand. If you've got a catalog of products that all fit under a category and you give that to Facebook, you can not only target people who have engaged with your stuff before, but Facebook knows if they're poking around looking for that type of product. And that, I find that to be pretty powerful.
Yeah, totally. As you were saying, it depends on your type of business, the best platform you can get. I agree with you totally. And what would you say right now to someone who has a business, let's say, who sells online courses, or let's say online courses, but he's not an expert. He's an expert on, let's take an example. He's a plumber taking how to install a course, how to install a washing machine, right? Okay, that's the course that he says. So what would you say to that person who's starting and says, okay, I'm gonna use these Facebook ads? Would you recommend to hire an agency, hire an expert? In Mexico, well, they're called traffickers right now. It's like the profession that is called for people who are actually having, I think that's like 1.5 years career that they teach you how to do traffic.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I think it's cost you like $50,000. No, like $5,000. I know okay. that type of careers. But what would you say to that person who's starting in business, who wants to sell that course? He's just starting. He maybe had some traction from organic traffic, but he wants to grow, or his business has been stalling. What would you say to that person?
Well, so assuming, so he doesn't want to do the ads himself?
Well, let's say, what would you recommend? Look, you do them yourself. Make and have study a little bit, take some online courses, or would say, oh, don't. I know that it depends on the person, but for the general public, no, I know if you would say he's like your average person who's not very techy because he's a plumber. He's not like someone who knows a lot of programming. He's not that tech savvy, but he goes around.
So if you have the desire to, because I understand how it is starting a business where the last thing you want to do is hire somebody and pay them to do something. And you also have probably limited budget to run ads if you're starting a new business. So you don't want to spend that money on paying someone to do it. So, again, I kind of compare it to when I got started and I had no budget. Now, this is a different world 11 years ago, but I was spending $1 a day because I had no money. I was spending $1 a day on ads, but that dollar, even today, while it would barely do anything, it still is better than nothing. And not only will it result in something, whether it's impressions or maybe a few clicks or something, someone's going to be exposed to your business who wasn't before, but you will also learn something from it. So if you're willing to learn about creating ads, I advise trying to do it yourself if you can, especially in the early going when you just can't pay anybody. I understand that. And in that way too, you kind of get a sense of how it works. Maybe you start learning from some of the results. You may also learn what you're really not very good at. And yes, eventually you want to hire someone to do this. But so in terms of the ads themselves, you're depending on your budget, you probably won't be running ads to build for sales, right? Because you just can't, if you're not spending enough, you can't optimize for a sale and get good results. Your goal is probably going to be more about awareness and engagement. And I think those two kind of go together in that if you're building a new business, you should be focused on getting more well known, right? And these days, part of that is, and it sounds like in this case of this plumber, he's going to teach you how to do certain things. You need to establish expertise. In order to do that, you can't just say, go to my website, I'm going to tell you how to be a plumber and sign up for this course, because why should I believe that you know what you're talking about? I have no idea. So a lot of what you should be doing should be organic, and where you're not necessarily selling anything. It's just you showing that you know what you're talking about, showing people how to do things, to patch your leaks with your plumbing, to do various, maybe simple tasks, maybe some that are a little bit more advanced, things that people are looking for solutions to, and probably going to be Googling and finding that and finding you. So they may not be looking for a course. They may be looking for a solution to a problem that they're having with their plumbing. That may end up leading to eventually some customers. But yeah, I think in the early going, it's all about building your brand and building expertise and trust, because no one knows who you are. You're completely new in this industry, and it's a lot of experimentation. In a lot of ways, it's a fun time where you're trying to figure out what works as well.
So you touched a point that I have been continually trying to test myself, and you said about the conversions. You talk about, okay, so I optimize my sales funnel to a conversions, but because I don't have that much sales, at least what Facebook tells you is that you have to have 50 sales on a week so that it can optimize. In my experience, I have tested, even if I don't have the 50 sales in 1 week, comparing it with doing the advertising for optimizing for page views or video views. And sometimes my conversions are better with a conversion to sale, even if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 sales,
right,
that doing it for the optimization for page views or video views, even if the logical thing would be that if it's optimized so that people see your video, you should sell more than if it's optimized for one only sale, right? But I have seen different. That I don't know. What's your opinion on that? What should it do? Does it have like is it like linear? Is it always the same, or how does that work? Because I haven't seen like continually the same thing. It's sometimes one, sometimes the other. So what's your experience with that?
I think you're right. I think you're onto something. So basically, like you were saying, if you're going to optimize for any type of event, that first week, Facebook is in what they call a learning phase, where they are learning from your results, adjusting like who sees your ad, where they're going to see your ad, to get you the most results possible at the lowest cost, right? So they say they need 50 of those conversion or whatever event during a week per ad set in order to properly learn, which makes sense, right? I mean, you need data to learn, otherwise it's just guessing. That said, at least if you're not able to get to that 50, Facebook they still know what your goal is, though. They still understand whether this is something you wanted or not, right? So while it may not be optimal, because I still contend that if you're able to get the 50 plus, you're going to get a better cost per conversion over the long haul that way, if you can. But that's just not possible in some cases. If your budget isn't high enough, you're just never going to get anywhere close to that to risk that money, which it's a risk, right?
Yeah.
So the options are often, do you optimize for conversion or do you optimize for traffic? And I will absolutely agree with you that if you had an option, and you're getting okay results optimizing for a conversion, keep optimizing for the conversion, because the difference is if you optimize for traffic, Facebook no longer cares about whether or not those people convert. it doesn't matter to them. Their algorithm, if you're out to, when I say traffic, you're optimizing for a link click or a landing page view, their only goal is to get you as many of those link clicks as possible at the lowest cost. So that could, they don't care what they do after that, just that they click. So that's why it's different from when you optimize for conversion. Even though you couldn't get to 50, at least Facebook's trying to get you there. Here, they're like, hey, look at all this traffic we're getting you. I don't know what they're doing after that, but aren't you happy? You know?
Yeah.
And the reality is that could be because, like audience network, you have a certain placement that leads to a lot of accidental clicks or click fraud or whatever. You could have a bunch of just 3-second clicks or 3-second visits where they're there and they leave. You're not happy, but Facebook thinks you are because you said that's what you wanted. You just wanted traffic. So that's a difference, and why like optimizing for traffic rarely works, because quality just is not a consideration for Facebook, unfortunately. That's one of my biggest gripes and complaints about it. As somebody who wants to drive traffic to my blog posts, I think you're still, so whether it's a purchase, you could still potentially experiment with optimizing for like if you have an add to cart event or something that isn't the page view, but is like another step up, another action that you maybe can get to 50. If possible, do that. But the other thing you can do is remarketing, right? So then it's a matter of you're less concerned. You already know you're providing Facebook with the quality audience. You know these people are likely to do something because of like they're on your email list, or maybe they visited that landing page before and added to cart, but they didn't convert. And remarketing to these people, that audience won't be big enough to get 50 in a week, but you're more likely, like if you're optimizing for, no matter what you're optimizing for, you're still likely to get some results out of that because of the audience you provided Facebook in that case.
Okay, yeah. So if you have the audience, then you should try to use conversions, because you have a high possibility of having, even if you don't get to 50, some conversions that is going to be better than if you try to get traffic. So do you think that in the actual state of Facebook, if you have a low cost item, is it still a good idea to, well, sometimes it's the only thing you can do, right? I know, but is it still like profitable to offer a $10 or a $5 product on Facebook? Would you take that risk?
I would say generally it is going to be hard to be profitable with a $5 or $10 profit. I'm not just saying on Facebook, or a $5 or $10 product, not just on Facebook, but just in general. Like your overhead, like what can your cost be on any of your marketing in order to still be profitable? I mean, that's gonna be tough, right? So I'm not gonna say it's impossible to sell a product, a low price product. I mean, the good thing about a product that's cheaper is that people are less resistant to breaking out their credit card and paying for it if they like it, because it's cheap. Because if price isn't a barrier, then they're more likely. But now, your cost per conversion though needs to be just a few dollars, and how you go about that, whether it's because it's a really popular product, it's a discount, you use like a sense of urgency, or there's only a few of these left, or whatever it is. There's a lot of psychology in it. I mean, it puts all the pressure on you to create a really good ad or have a really good product to be able to sell it. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it certainly would be hard.
Okay.
It'd be hard.
With this, I have last two questions. I know we're getting to that hour, but one is, do you trust in Facebook? And I mean, as an advertising, where, for example, I haven't seen any results from the audience network, right? So Facebook tells you, okay, put What I'll optimize it. So I do the work for you. Should we trust in their algorithms that say, okay, they're not gonna spend my money on traffic that is not good, or should why do I bother? I better get it out of it so I don't spend even 1 cent in that type of traffic. So that should be one of the questions, because you have a lot of placement right now in Messenger, in Reels, in stories. So there's a lot.
Yep.
So do you think it's better to let Facebook do the work, or if you have a pretty good idea that your audience is, for example, in the news feed, should you only optimize for that and don't let Facebook do the work, because it's probably gonna spend money where it shouldn't?
So this is where it depends upon, well, first of all, this is where it helps to have an experienced advertiser, right? So that understands how optimization works and some of these pitfalls that can happen. Because you're right, audience network can be a problem. Now, the system, the algorithm, where Facebook works really, really well is for optimization for a purchase or some kind of conversion. And the reason for that is the system is going to do everything it can to get as many of that thing that you want for the lowest cost. You don't have a low quality purchase, right? So if you're running audience network and people aren't buying from audience network, Facebook's going to stop spending your money there, or stop or decrease the amount they're spending there. So the problem with optimization is like what we're talking about with traffic, or sometimes in engagement. So if you tell Facebook, hey, just give me a bunch of engagement, and you get Facebook showing your ads to people who just spam your comments, telling you how much they hate your product, Facebook thinks they did a great job. They got you some great engagement, right?
Yeah.
So this is, again, it's a matter of quality. Like, so there are times when you can trust the algorithm because you can't screw it up, right? So optimizing for a purchase, Facebook can't really screw up. They will make automatic adjustments to make sure you get as many purchases as possible. That will always be better than what you can do manually. Like, you should never overthink that and think, oh, audience network doesn't work, so I'm going to remove that, or I'm only going to focus on newsfeed. Because if you only go to newsfeed, it's probably going to get really expensive, because that's the most expensive placement, right? On the flip side, if you said, let's go all placement, and I just want to drive traffic, newsfeed is probably barely going to be shown, because they're going to focus on all those really cheap placements that are going to give you a bunch of cheap clicks of people who aren't going to do anything on your site when they get there. So these are just things you have to understand, like how much you trust the system and trust the algorithm really depends upon what you're optimizing for. If it's a purchase, if it's a conversion, you should pretty much trust it, because Facebook can't really screw it up and give you a low quality purchase. It's everything else. That's where you have to be smart. And if you're not, you could waste a whole lot of money.
Okay, I totally agree with you. And I think that the conversions is the way to go. And as you say, traffic can be very deceiving for a lot of people who don't have the experience to know the quality of the leads in the long run, right? Even if you think you're having even likes on your post, and you think that's gonna be great, but it doesn't gonna convert into sales directly right now. So what would you say would be some starting points for someone who is gonna start right now? Like, from that plumber who's starting right now, he's gonna start to advertise. What tips would you give him? Like, okay, so I'm gonna give you start following John Loomer, for example, and read my blog post. But what would be like 1-2 tips that you could give him, or anyone who's gonna start advertising his very small business? It's like an entrepreneur, they just lost their job, they're trying to start something, they don't have a lot of money, but they're gonna try. They are gonna start right now with this economy, with whatever is gonna happen. What would you tell them? What would be some tips? Because this is their only option, right? There's not a bunch of them.
I mean, I would say, in addition to the advertising, let's make sure you're starting organically as well. So start creating content. So especially if you are that plumber who's selling a course, so not just a regular old plumber, but a plumber selling a course, you need to get confident in the platform and the format. So it's creating videos and just creating content, because you won't know what a good ad looks like until you know what content works on the platform too. So that's the same thing I'm learning on TikTok right now. Like, I need to understand how people consume content on that platform before I run ads. I need to understand what my content should look like and function like. Because I can't just take an ad I created on Facebook and throw it on TikTok and think that's going to work. So that's the first thing is make sure you're using the platform and create a lot of organic content. No one's going to read it probably in the beginning anyway, or watch it. Just learn from it. But when it comes to ads, your focus should, like, assuming this fits your business and it's something that's at least in an affordable area and it's productive, is build your email list. So, whether it's using a Facebook lead form or driving people to your website, I mean, you can get leads at a reasonably cheap price that you don't have to spend a crazy amount of money on it. So that is probably a better place to start than trying to sell something knowing you don't have the budget to do it, and knowing you don't really have the built-in audience or built-in trust and expertise to at least build the list. But I think it's really important that while you're doing that, you try to create a lot of organic content to build your brand as well. And then you can start remarketing to people who engaged with it to try to build your list.
Yeah, totally makes sense. If you don't have any organic things that are having traction, it's going to be very hard to how do you say to make it to making an ad of that type of content, because you don't know which one is going to work. So you're going to spend a lot of money on ads that don't work.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense to have something organically work and then make money or put money on a similar ad or a similar post as the one that already had success organically. One question in the leads thing, in the leads lead forms. Does lead form can be connected to an autoresponder like ActiveCampaign or something like that? You can connect them?
So you need a third-party tool to sync them up. So I use Zapier to sync the leads that come from those lead forms to Infusionsoft, which I guess they call Keep now. But no matter, there are a million of those tools out there, and depending on your CRM, there might be even like more of a native tool or something as well. But I know Zapier hooks into just about anything. But yeah, otherwise you have to do all that manually. Okay. So when someone completes a form, it's going to go into a spreadsheet that you have to download and check it, and that's you probably don't want to do.
Yeah, we should do a shout out to Facebook to incorporate that, because that would
I don't
be
know
really
why.
great.
Yeah, you would think. Yep.
Okay, so thank you very much, John, for all of the content that you have shared with us right now with your story. I think it's very inspiring for a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs who have, like myself, I also started like in 2007 after you, but I have seen a lot of people go in and out of the market, and you having been with one part, at least one foot inside the digital market, I think it speaks a lot of the type of work that you do. And in the pandemic, like it shows a lot of your values as a person, that you were more focused on how to help people or trying not to get money out of them. Yeah. Even if it's it would have been a very good time to to get some money out of them. A lot of people made a lot of money in this period, and I think it has helped for some people who lost their jobs, and that's the way that they started. So what comes next for John? What's your focus right now? What are you going? I have heard your podcast. I have seen your blog post. Now you're doing. I think I would like to congratulate you because you have doing great TikTok posts and your reels. They are very good. It doesn't show that you don't like to do them.
Oof. It was scary in the beginning. It was scary. Yeah. So yeah, that's really my next thing. I mean, as I mentioned, I was resistant to change, and one of those changes that has been coming for a few years was video, whether it's short form or not. And I realized this year that honestly, it was this just a couple months ago. It was time. Like I can't delay this anymore. But I think I was running into what a lot of people run into with that. It's partially a resistance to change, but it's a little bit of like uncertainty and fear. Like I did not know how to do it. And when you're used to doing things a certain way, like with blogging, you asked me to write a blog post, I could write you a blog post in 30 minutes and get it out there, promote it, get it to my email list, everything easy. You asked me to record a video, especially 2 months ago, and to edit it for TikTok, I wouldn't know where to start and to make it look good and anything. And I'd be self-conscious about, what does my lighting look like? What am I wearing? And all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I basically had to embrace that I was going to create some really bad videos. And that's the only way that you learn, right? So, and I think it was once I understood it and was okay with that. It felt like every video I created was a little bit better. And sometimes I created a bad one, sometimes I created a good one. But I created 70 videos in October. But so whether you're on TikTok or not, this has been a really important skill for me because video is the future. It's what we got to be doing. You make a personal connection with your audience, with your potential customer through video. This is how people are consuming content right now, is video, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or even Instagram and Facebook now. So if you're not doing that, and this is what I found, you're isolating yourself from a very large potential audience. So like as I've created these TikTok videos, it's not just that, okay, I'm building this audience on TikTok. This is a skill that I'm applying to Facebook and Instagram because I'm taking those, I'm making reels. And the craziest thing has happened when I've published those to Facebook and Instagram. I'm hearing from people saying, oh man, John, I haven't seen you in years. You helped me so much back in 2015 or 2016 or what it was, and it was nice. It was a compliment, but at the same time, I just wanted to scream, I've been here all along. I haven't gone anywhere. But the problem was, it's because I wasn't playing that game of feeding the algorithm what the algorithm wants. But it's not just the algorithm. People want to engage with video because it adds so much more than just a link and a thumbnail can provide. There's so much more of an immediate connection that you can make with people, and that's what I have been missing. So that's what's next for me. But it's not just TikTok. It's the format. I'm also applying it for my podcast. I'm taking some of those for the audio of my podcast, but where it goes from there, we'll see. But I'm just fully committed to kind of overcoming this. It was a big obstacle I created for myself, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes here in the next few months.
Well, I totally think that you're gonna do great because I have seen the posts and they're great. It doesn't show at all that you don't like or you were self-conscious at doing them. You edit them pretty well, I think. And it's like either in TikTok or in Reels in Instagram. I have been seeing them and they really add value. I think that's what is important because in a very short time, you're giving a lot of value. Then for people like me, at least, who consume your type of content, it's great. And I would suggest that you keep doing the work because I think you're gonna return to those times when you have the biggest audience because you do have the knowledge and you have done the work for a lot of years. And I think that you continually are improving and testing things. That's what I was saying at the start of the program or the show. It's that you do test things, and maybe it's not the correct word, but strange things, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna do this experiment to see what happens, and then you bring the results and you're showing with your community. And I would highly recommend to anyone who is watching this show or heard us to check the John Loomer training. They're great. And John, if people who are seeing or watching this or hearing this, I mean, where should they get in contact with you if they want to learn from you or want to get in touch with you? Which network, which is it your webpage would be the best way to get in contact with you?
I think the best place to go would be my website, so johnloomer.com. Beyond that, you can find me just about anywhere. So it's at John Loomer if you're on TikTok or even on YouTube Shorts now and Instagram. But you should be able to find me anywhere. I've got a podcast as well. It's the Pubcast with John Loomer. But basically, I want to find the best way I can reach each person.
Well, great then. Thank you very much, John. A suggestion for you would be in your webpage. I didn't find your about page, and you have a great story.
There. It's there. Hold on.
I didn't find it. I was trying to research you a little bit more about your story, and I couldn't find it.
You're right. So I must have, it moved. I think someone moved it. It's at the very bottom now. That's not good. It's a quick link at the very bottom. Okay.
Well, you have a great story, and I really like your content. Thank you very much for the gift of your time for me and for all the people who are watching this. And thank you, and a good luck in whatever comes next for John Loomer.
Thank you so much, Horacio, and also just thank you for putting together the effort to interview me in this way, in this unique way for you, and what could be a unique way for your audience. Thank you for struggling through with me. I appreciate you.
Okay, well, to anyone who is watching and seeing this, I always close the show in the same way. And I want to tell you that it's better to have one action in the right direction than to wait to have the perfect plan. One action in the right direction is better than to wait to have the perfect plan. And remember, it's better to get something of what you heard today and put it into action, right? If it was entertaining, that's good. But please get one thing, grab it, and say, I'm going to apply it in my business this way or in my life, but get something, make it your own, and make it work. And remember, don't be a spectator, and put some action into your work. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.